and welcome to this episode of Batavia Spotlight, where we get to know more about community organizations and businesses here in Batavia. Our first guest today is Bob Popick, who's an expert on Batavia windmills and so much more. Bob, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ellen, for inviting me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background here in Batavia? You've done lots of things, so tell us about that.
That I have. I probably am prestigiously enough to hold the record for the longest city employee in the city of Batavia. I'm a member and retired as of 48 years with the city of Batavia.
You started when you were 0 years old.
I did. I started out as a fireman, spent 4 years with the Batavia Fire Department. Then I went on and became a police officer, spent 23 years with the police department, and became chief of police for 10 years. At the end of my career with the police department, then I was able to move into a position called the administrative assistant to the mayor. And as Mayor Shelkey walked around and talked to his friendly people out there, they said, "Mr. Mayor, I need this done or that done." And he says, "Go call Bob Popick, he'll get it done for you."
And you did?
And I did.
Absolutely. So how did you get interested in and involved in the windmills?
Well, I love Batavia history. My wife and I both, Francine and I both love Batavia history. We're old-time Batavia residents, and as a member of the Batavia Historical Society and then becoming president of that organization, it just grew and grew and grew, and windmills are one of our foundations of the history of Batavia, and that's how I became happy, enjoying, and doing it.
Can you tell us a few interesting things about the Batavia windmills and windmills in general?
Well, it all started back in 1856 when an inventor by the name of Daniel Halliday came to Chicago and met some entrepreneurs, and a couple of them were from Batavia. I'm not sure which ones. It might have been some of the Van Ortricks. We then went ahead and had them come out to Batavia and view the city for a potential factory site.
Oh.
They were already operating out of a small factory in Connecticut, and when they came to Batavia, they saw things that they never expected to see. The river was already here, so they could use river power. The railroad was established, Ellen, that they could go ahead and transport the windmills. Quarries were developed that they could go ahead and use quarry stone to build their factories with. And the working power of the community was always looking for jobs and things like that. The final thing probably was the great expanse, or agricultural expanse, of the farm industry around in the neighboring states, that they could go ahead and sell their windmills.
Now, I never thought about the availability of the stone to build the factories, but indeed, a lot of our buildings here in Batavia that we use for our community buildings are former windmill factories.
That is correct. The three major companies are still in existence as far as the buildings, and then the three smaller companies went away. We had a number of windmill companies, 6 to be in total, and they were all flourishing quite heavily during the industrial parade, and when they did that, they went ahead and made lots of money for themselves.
Great. Now, are there any functioning windmills left?
Oh, absolutely. As people tour the city of Batavia, they'll notice them around on public and private property. There are 17 still up and around, and they are all restored Batavia-built windmills from different areas that we brought them back to Batavia.
So those are the real thing. The windmills that are in Batavia are the real things. And
yes, that is correct. They may have been restored in some form or fashion, but they are definitely were one-time built.
Now, I know you're very active in the windmill community. If other people want to be active in that, what are some of the places they can go to find out other people that are like yourself?
There are not many we do have what they call the International Windmillers Trade Fair. It's an organization made up of people who just go crazy talking windmills and loving windmills and restoring windmills. We just recently met in Rochester, Minnesota, and next year it travels, and we're going down to San Antonio, Texas area.
Now, how can people learn more? How can people find this organization or similar ones, or find other enthusiasts in the area?
Well, obviously, the word today is the internet. That would be one way of doing it. They can contact me personally at my email address would be winmilltwo@gmail.com. It's
Okay.
windmill2two@gmail.com. And another thing I like to promote is the book that the library, our Batavia Library, has published. It's a walking tour of the Batavia windmills.
Oh, okay.
All 17 are in the book, plus a few extra. And they can get a free copy of that from our library, and it'll tell you a little bit about the history and so on and so forth.
So both you directly and the Batavia Library are resources, and I don't think people knew that they could get that at the library, so that's important to know.
It certainly is.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for being with us today and telling us about this so we can go out and explore part of Batavia history, so thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
And now we'll take a brief time out to hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Tom Wangler, President of Confident Air. Regular maintenance can prolong the life of your furnace and keep your energy costs to a minimum. Plus, there's less of a chance of a breakdown on a cold winter night. Your furnace needs proper care and attention to keep it running smoothly, so you don't end up paying too much for heating during the cold winter months, or worse yet, with deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. We recommend an annual inspection to ensure safe operation. Confident Air, your trusted home comfort professionals since 1992.
The Drendel & Jansen's Law Group has practiced law in Aurora since 1961 and in Batavia since 1994.
We focus our energy on representing people and businesses and families in the local community.
We represent clients in Kane and surrounding counties in matters ranging from divorce to wills, business law to zoning.
We focus our efforts on planning and working towards positive resolutions for businesses and families.
When clients need someone to fight for their interests, we're ready, willing, and able to act as aggressive advocates to protect their interests.
Drendel & Jansen's Law Group with offices in Batavia and Aurora and located on the web at batavialaw.com.
The Kane County Chronicle is your best source for news and information in print and online in the Tri-Cities and Caneland.
This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
Downtown Batavia, always moving by nature. Recreation. Nature. The arts. Specialty shops. Restaurants and services. Downtown is everyone's neighborhood. Come, celebrate, meet friends, unwind.
See you downtown.
Our next guest is Eric Lindstrom, and Eric coordinates a number of Facebook groups, and all of his groups are Batavia focused. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today, Ellen.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the groups you have?
Well, mainly what I have is 5 groups on Facebook, and if anybody is involved in those types of things, there's also pages on Facebook. So 6 in all. There's the main flagship is called We Love Batavia, Illinois. And then there's the Batavia Food and Drink Group, which was for the longest time my largest group. There's the Batavia Illinois Job Board, the Batavia Fun and Games Group, and then the Batavia Small Business Mall.
Huh. Now, how did you start all these groups, or why did you start all of these groups?
Well, I wanted to open my own business at one point and figured a good way to do that would be to get involved in some local groups, and I got involved in a couple and decided to start my own. And that's actually the first one I did was the what became the Fun and Games Group. And because I wanted to open a game store, but somebody else beat me to it and had a better plan to do it, and I'm glad that they've done that, actually, because now I can do other things.
Well, who are the people that typically look at your pages? What is your profile there?
You know, it's just about everybody and their cousin, it seems. Anybody who wants to know more about Batavia. We've got city council members. I know the mayor's in some of my groups. The chamber, the bicycle commission. It just depends on the topic, and people will come out and start talking about things depending on which group it is.
And what are some of the things that make the group so special? Because I'm on there too, and I love it. And what are some of the things that people respond to?
Well, anytime there's a hot topic in town to talk about, it seems to get a lot of response. I know that most recently, I mean, things like the school board election got a lot of conversation. The talk about a crosswalk at Houston and Batavia Avenue got a lot of talk. And then also in the food and drink group, something that we've had that's gotten a lot of feedback and we've had a lot of fun with over the last 3 years was the appetizing April tournament.
Now tell me more about the appetizing April tournament.
We set up a bracket of 64 because I have to count. This one thing I forgot to check before I came was I think there's 65 restaurants in Batavia right now.
Wow.
Between fast food and sit down and all different bars and restaurants in town. And the last 3 years we've had a tournament, bracket style tournament like March Madness, and everybody votes between one or the other and picks their favorite. And the first year we had it, the winner was Batavia Creamery. Okay. And the second year it was El Taco Grande, and then this year it was Crosstown Pub and Grill. Ah. So we've had some fun with it.
It's hard to choose. There's so many good restaurants in Batavia.
I find it interesting that we've had 3 different winners in 3 years too.
And 3 different kinds of food in 3 different locations.
Exactly.
This is fun.
So and I think it's be interesting to see how many people vote next year and who they decide they want to be the favorite restaurant.
Just a little bit of fun and a little bit of sharing information about the town.
Yeah, I think as long as people don't take it too seriously.
Yes.
I mean, it's meant to be fun, and sometimes it's not as fun, especially from my end, where you're trying to coordinate all these things. But it certainly keeps people talking about the restaurants. I love when people in the food group talk about, especially, I forgot about that place.
Yes, I've done that.
There's a lot of restaurants that don't get as much publicity in town that are well loved but not well talked about.
And sometimes we all gravitate toward the newer places and our old favorites. We say we've got to go back there, and they fall out of the rotation sometimes for us.
Exactly, and so it's fun. Like I said, and we've had some newcomers to town say, hey, who has the best pizza? And sometimes that'll strike up a conversation.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and for the most part, I mean, I do allow the restaurant owners to advertise in the group. Some of them have taken me up on that. I don't, you know, it's free advertising for these guys as long as we've tried to keep it from being too spammy. But for the most part, I think we've helped expose the scene that people don't realize we have in Batavia.
And I think that's something important that your sites do. They expose us to things that we might not normally think about in town.
Well, and that's kind of where I got interested in it. Was I joined a very large group of people. That's slipping my mind right now, but it's for people who are born in Batavia.
Okay.
And a very large group, and they. A lot of it was talk about the history of town, and I love regional history of the Midwest. I mean, small town history. You know, go ahead and take your big towns. I love a town the size of Batavia with its river history and all the different manufacturing, and I think that some of the stories that came out of there made me interested, and that's kind of where. Like I said, we were just talking before we started here about the basketball court.
Yes.
In the old Hubbard's building, and a lot of people don't know about the 1912 state champs in basketball in Batavia. They don't even know that team existed.
Right.
And that court was, you know, used to be the basketball court that the basketball team played on.
So there's a lot of things that you're aware of. You're a lifelong Batavian then?
No.
No, you're not.
I've been playing catch up since we moved here in 2006.
Oh my goodness, you've done a lot of catch-up considering it's only been since 2006.
Yeah, well, I've tried to dive right in and make myself at home, and hopefully I've been accepted.
Absolutely. Well, what are some of the things people might not know about your various not websites, but Facebook pages?
They don't see how many people I don't let in. There's a lot of, one of the most common things you'll see on Facebook is fake profiles. Or people on the other side of the world that have absolutely nothing to do with Batavia will ask to join the group. And when I go and look at their profile, they'll have
30 different groups that they've joined that all start with the letters BA.
Oh.
And you know, it's like they pick a letter and they decide, or you know, in the case of the We Love Batavia group, they have a bunch of people that have joined a bunch of groups that start with we. And they're just random people that, so I have to filter out a lot of the people that aren't really authentic. One of the #1 things is that if I see somebody join the group, wants to join the group, and they have friends in the group, then I automatically will accept them typically. And you know, it seems a little complicated sometimes, and I probably overcomplicate it, but I try to keep it filtered a little bit so it's not, it doesn't turn into, you know, garbage dump for spammy posts and things like that.
And I think it's much better that you stop all of those things proactively rather than wait for the spam to come up.
Yeah.
And try to stop it after it started.
And that's, you know, it's, like I said, it's not always, it probably, my wife would say it takes a little too much time out of my life, but you know, I know how I want it to look, and I think for the most part, yeah, I've created all these different groups. I wish some of the others were utilized a little bit more, but for the most part, I think you know, there's something there in each of the groups. If you can't find one group that interests you, then I don't know how interested you are in Batavia. Unless you just don't want to be on Facebook, which there's also a lot of that still.
Well, if you want to eat in Batavia, it sounds like your places are the place to be to find those things.
Well, I try to help, and I know I've learned a lot more about restaurants.
So how can people find out more? How can people find your pages to join them?
The easiest way would be to just go to Facebook and do a search for We Love Batavia, Illinois. And there'll be a page and there'll be a group. They can join the group. They can like the page. And I'll post information about all the groups on the page. And there's links also.
Excellent. So people can find your parent group and all of the other groups that are there as well and learn a lot more about Batavia. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eric, and thank you for telling us about all this.
And thanks for having me, Ellen.
Thank you. And now we'll take a brief time out to hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Tom Wangler, President of Confident Air. Regular maintenance can prolong the life of your furnace and keep your energy costs to a minimum. Plus, there's less of a chance of a breakdown on a cold winter night. Your furnace needs proper care and attention to keep it running smoothly, so you don't end up paying too much for heating during the cold winter months, or worse yet, with deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. We recommend an annual inspection to ensure safe operation. Confident Air, your trusted home comfort professionals since 1992.
The Drendel and Jansen's Law Group has practiced law in Aurora since 1961 and in Batavia since 1994.
We focus our energy on representing people and businesses and families in the local community.
We represent clients in Kane and surrounding counties in matters ranging from divorce to wills, business law to zoning.
We focus our efforts on planning and working towards positive resolutions for businesses and families.
When clients need someone to fight for their interests, we're ready, willing, and able to act as aggressive advocates to protect their interests.
Drendel and Jansen's Law Group with offices in Batavia and Aurora and located on the web at batavialaw.com.
The King County Chronicle is your best source for news and information in print and online in the Tri-Cities and Caneland.
This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
Downtown Batavia, always moving by nature. Recreation. Nature. The arts. Specialty shops. Restaurants and services. Downtown is everyone's neighborhood. Come, celebrate. Meet friends. Unwind.
See you downtown.
Our final guest today is Reverend Yvette Eber, who is the pastor at the Congregational Church of Batavia. Good afternoon, Yvette.
Good afternoon, Ellen.
And thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about the United Church of Christ, which is what the Congregational Church is part of, and tell us what the church is about and its beliefs?
The United Church of Christ was actually formed in 1957 from 4 smaller denominations, and they came together and united, and their philosophy is direct involvement with the Bible through discernment. Christ is the head of the church, but the Bible is still speaking today, and United Church of Christ congregations work together to discern Christ's call.
So each congregation is working toward this knowledge on their own, independently, through their pastor and the congregation?
Correct. Each congregation is autonomous. The highest power in the United Church of Christ is the individual congregation. But we have the support, and we're in a covenant relationship with the denomination.
Okay. And one of the things that I know that is still somewhat unique about you as the pastor of the church is that you are a woman pastor. And tell us a little bit about perhaps your journey into this, and how did you arrive here?
How did I arrive here? I was, years ago, a school teacher. And when I started having children, I went to part-time and was offered a church job at my own church doing Christian education, which led to a call to seminary, and I thought I was going to be a Christian educator my entire life. But I discerned in my Bible study and my thirst for Bible study that I might have a call to preach. And in the United Church of Christ, you're called to preach and teach, is a dual call.
Oh.
So it seems like a natural extension of where I started out in education.
So how long have you been in this role as a pastor now?
In Batavia, I've been here a little over a year. I've been a pastor for about 8 years, and prior to that I was in Christian education for about 8 years.
Excellent. Now at the United Church of Christ, in the congregation here in Batavia, what is the philosophy of the church, and what is the philosophy that the church is trying to bring to the community?
Well, the church has a really wonderful connection with the United Church of Christ slogan, whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey with God, you are welcome here. And they actually enter into the struggle at the Congregational Church of Batavia to welcome that all, which is an ongoing working progress. We have people in the pews that don't all believe the same thing, don't all vote the same way, don't all see the same Bible story the same way. And they are bonded in community of service. I think one of the greatest bonds at the Congregational Church of Batavia is outreach. How do we reach out to the community around us and, in fact, the world around us? And it seems to hold everybody together.
So each individual is following what their beliefs are, and we're all, of course, different people.
Right.
But in that diversity, we look for unity amongst us and some unifying principles then.
Yeah, and the unity is usually God, and how do you experience God? And the unity, we may all experience God differently, but we all have a thirst to hear about each other's experience.
And so we actually use that to draw ourselves closer to each other.
Yes.
And to see other ways of experiencing God and other ways of relating to God, rather than seeing this as being something that's divisive amongst the people.
Correct. Now, there's always division, there's always divisiveness, but we struggle with what we have in common to heal that and work together as the people of the Church of Jesus Christ.
So everybody, well, you mentioned everybody is welcome no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey.
That is our constant goal. It's not an easy goal. People think that putting that in front of a church on our sign like it is there means it's a done deal. It's a constant work in progress. God challenges us by bringing people who are different to us into our lives all the time.
But everybody was made by God, so we welcome everybody.
That's where we're headed. Children of God gather together.
Now, within the church, what programs does the church offer? What are some of the things that we have?
One of the most unique programs I think we have children's ministries, we have a thriving youth ministry, but we also have a young adult ministry. We have students that go to college during the year who come back during the summer and meet together for Bible study and for fellowship activities, and that is a rare thing in churches today when you go beyond the youth group age. We also have about 5 active Bible studies for people at different times of the day that are going on, and anyone could actually start a Bible study, and we will find room for it on the church calendar. We have a weekday during the school year Logos program that kind of picks up where the old Thursday school philosophy in Batavia picked up.
I remember that.
It's moved to Wednesday, but it is Christian education during the week, and it's fellowship. The kids come together with adults at a dinner table and then have activities according to their age group, and that's when we teach confirmation. Outreach is happening throughout the church in many, many different ways, not just the outreach committee. And I think one of our newest ministries is our Justice and Witness ministry, which seeks to bring God's justice into the world.
Excellent. Now, the church offers many, many programs. Who can participate in them?
Anybody can participate in them. Basically, we had VBS last week, and I would say it was made up of half church members and half people from the community who simply come for Vacation Bible School. We have people who come in who visit with us regularly and are members at other churches but go to our education programs. So basically, your contribution to being active in the church is how you choose to make it.
So when we say everybody is welcome, it doesn't mean that you have to be in the pews on Sundays in order to be welcome. You can be welcomed in any one of a number of different ways.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful, so that it's open to everybody. Find the things that resonate with you, find the connections that you would like to make, and check things out.
Yeah, we also have a nursery school, which is a mission of the church, has been for 40 years, and many of our nursery school parents are served without being members of the church.
Excellent. So how can people learn more, find out more, decide they want to stop by for a visit? How can people get connected if they want to be?
Well, stopping by for a visit is always an option. We have a doorbell on the front door of the church that you can ring, and our office hours are 8:30 to 4:30. But to learn more about us, there's several ways. If you're a computer person, we have a church Facebook's webpage, and we also have a web page, which is under construction, but is still up and working under construction.
Excellent.
And it tells all the activities, and you can simply visit an activity or visit worship. No phone calls necessary.
No prearrangement, no reservations.
But a lot of people do email myself or other staff members to ask more about a program beforehand and let us know they're coming. We greet them at the door. We answer their questions. So you can be as conspicuous or inconspicuous as you like.
Excellent. Well, Reverend Yvette, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
And now we'll take a brief time out to hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be right back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Tom Wangler, President of Confident Air. Regular maintenance can prolong the life of your furnace and keep your energy costs to a minimum. Plus, there's less of a chance of a breakdown on a cold winter night. Your furnace needs proper care and attention to keep it running smoothly, so you don't end up paying too much for heating during the cold winter months, or worse yet, with deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. We recommend an annual inspection to ensure safe operation. Confident Air, your trusted home comfort professionals since 1992.
The Drendel & Jansen's Law Group has practiced law in Aurora since 1961 and in Batavia since 1994.
We focus our energy on representing people and businesses and families in the local community.
We represent clients in Kane and surrounding counties in matters ranging from divorce to wills, business law to zoning.
We focus our efforts on planning and working towards positive resolutions for businesses and families.
When clients need someone to fight for their interests, we're ready, willing, and able to act as aggressive advocates to protect their interests.
Drendel & Jansen's Law Group with offices in Batavia and Aurora and located on the web at batavialaw.com.
The Kane County Chronicle is your best source for news and information in print and online in the Tri-Cities and Caneland.
This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.